Slurry storage. So David, all things slurry storage, it's a big topic. Something we've a lot of rainfall.
Yeah.
It needs to be minded, and I suppose people don't have enough storage typically, I suppose, the way things have gone.
They don't know. It's been unprecedented time, hasn't it, this winter, and yeah, you must be storing an awful lot of rainwater, which can be avoided. And yes, we need to come in and look at ways that we can stop the rainwater getting into the lagoon. But there's going to be some quite considerable cost expenses in that. Covered yards is the alternative to just dig a bigger lagoon. Now, these are questions that we would ask when we come to do a consultation of can we stop additional water getting into the lagoon, and digging a bigger lagoon is not the answer. Lagoons predominantly are the cheapest option. They always will be. The second option would be a lined lagoon. We're very fortunate here. This is in heavy clay land with no problem designing this lagoon whatsoever. Get some soil reports done for the clay content, so long as we've got a good impermeable clay content. Even if it's not to the full depth of the lagoon, we can line it with that impermeable clay and create a design for that, and that's not a problem. If we can't create an impermeable base, we'd start then looking at a liner, a Plygene, welded Plygene liner, all certificated and tied into the banks.
Okay. So let's start with unlined lagoon. So it's where you have good clay content. Would you pour a concrete base on that, or would you just have?
No, if it's got an impermeable base, if it's got a clay line and it's not going to leak, there's no need for a concrete base in it. Concrete ramp down into it. Predominantly in the UK, when this is due to be emptied, the bulk of the liquids get the stirrer going. We've got the stirrer there on the middle partition. Stir this lagoon up, but get it as liquid as possible, and then pump this out straight onto the land with dribble bar or umbilical splash plate. Any solids that are left in it, 360 excavator. Just get a digger in there, track round in the bottom, gather it all up, and then load it straight into rear discharge spreaders, spread onto land. So,
and I guess with sand and stuff like that, if you are using sand beds, that's obviously a requirement.
Again, yeah. So some farms will, depending on the volume of sand that they don't recycle, they could have quite a large proportion of sand, and they would have to empty that every year. Some 3-4 years before they'd need to empty the sand. The sand's not a problem, and it actually is quite a good thing to be putting on some land. If you need to alter pHs of the soil type, the sand's not an issue to spread it.
Okay.
So it's not a wasted resource.
So when it comes to lagoons, invariably they'll probably be lined lagoons. Would that be fair to say?
Becoming more prevalent. I think the EA, the Environment Agency, are looking more at lined lagoons. In the UK, covered lagoons is the major one at the moment. There's no cover on this, and a floating cover would be a requirement if this was to be extended or renewed or altered in some way. Then a floating cover would be the major thing to it. It is quite a considerable cost, but potentially on a lagoon of this size, you could be looking at knocking 2 months storage capacity off it just by covering the lagoon. And if you can reduce 2 months storage capacity on this, that's going to pay for your cover. So yes, a cost outlay, but a cost saving.
Okay. Let's move on to concrete store.
Concrete stores, underground concrete stores, work perfectly well. Tend to usually be have a weeping wall in them, tend to be divided between the solids and the liquids. They are a really good way of separating liquids from solids. If you have a requirement for solids, if you've got maize ground that's a bit further away and you want to carry the solids over a greater distance, you can umbilical the liquids onto the close land and then take the solids to the... So there's plenty of design options with a concrete store, either poured or, again, in sectional panels. You can get them tanked so that the panels are sealed, mastic sealed, and they're tanked to contain the liquid.
Yeah, less surface area, I guess, as well with a concrete store.
Yeah, less surface area, vertical sides on them. You don't quite need the outer perimeter as well. The fence can be brought in a lot closer to the edge, or even bolted on top of the concrete walling. So if in a tight situation, you could potentially reduce the land usage.
What depth would be practical from if you're sucking it out?
3 to 4 metres
Yeah.
is a standard depth.
Okay.
On a lagoon like this, it's all a factor of how deep your clay could be. Potentially up to 7 metres if you wanted. You've still got to allow for the freeboard on any lagoon construction, 750 on a lagoon. So.
Okay. Slatted tanks then?
Slatted tanks, yeah. UK, yeah, so the northwest, so Cumbria, some areas of Scotland, beef units, slatted tanks, yeah, are not unusual. For dairy farmers in the UK in general, slatted tanks are not something that we use. I feel a little bit the cost implication in it. I also feel that there is a little bit of a shortage of knowledge in the construction sector, especially the agricultural construction sector, in manufacturing slatted tanks. We shy away from them because we don't know how they work.
Yeah.
But I think if you could sit down and do the costings on it, I think they do have a place in the UK, especially going forward now with the weather we have, and instead of covering yards, cover a slatted tank, make the tank part of the building.
Okay.
And I think there potentially could be, the next 10 years, they could be more useful for the UK.
Slurry towers are another option for people, David?
Yeah, they're a popular option for if you don't have ground that's suitable enough to do a lagoon, or if you've got ground that's sloping. If you've got big elevations on the farm, then a tower might be an option. Two choices on the towers. We've got concrete or we've got steel. Steel comes in different types and different makeups. Vitreous enamel is your permastore, your traditional one with an enamel coating, or they do a slightly cheaper one which has got a plastic coating finish on it. Still a really durable finish. But yeah, tanks have a place, up to 1 million gallons stored in a steel tank.
Fast construction?
Fast construction, yeah, just a concrete pad to go down. We've also seen these temporary tanks. Interested to see how well they go. Interesting to see if the Environment Agency in the UK will allow them yet as well.
Yeah.
So that's a question he's asking. But yeah, storage capacity on them, and they work quite well. I quite like the tanks and the towers with slurry separators.
Right.
I think if you can have 2 tanks and you can use the separator to separate the solids and the liquids and keep the liquids in the tank, obviously you don't need as big a tank, and you can use the slurry separator to create the solids, either to spread or green bedding. It's another one with the slurry separators. That's something that we really like to see where that goes as well.
Okay, yeah, great. So regardless of your slurry storage solution, NVZ is an issue on some farms. It wasn't before, but it is now. But so what assistance can you give farmers in terms of calculating what storage requirements they have?
Well, we can come in and do a full site evaluation of the farm. We can measure, we can fly the drone over, we can measure all your yards, we can determine which are dirty yards, which are slurry yards, and we can do the calculations for the runoff on all of that. We can look at your existing storage, calculate what you will already have all this information because you'll have done it for your MVZ report, so you already have this information, but we can confirm this with you, and we can then start saying, well, if we divert or we increase capacity of storage or we cover yards, we can help in all of that situations, and for grant applications as well. Yeah. And we can get companies in to do the soil reports for any MVZ grant applications that you're doing.
Okay, fair enough.